Let us move to the next speaker. It will be delivered by the Doctor of Biological Science, Bizikov Vyacheslav. He is a head of neuro lead.
So, dear colleagues, the topic of my presentation is marine mammals and fisheries in the seas of Russia, and the cooperation of marine mammals and fisheries goes around the world. It extends as the aquaculture and industries develop, but there are some conflicts, and that's why community is interested in this topic. On the one hand, photos of seals and sea otters with plastic dead animals, but on the other hand, captured and stranded animals make the public want to solve this problem. But on the other hand, the fishery community tries to solve the problem when marine mammals eat out fishes and they damage fish nets and other tools which are used for fisheries. And this is a serious problem which has been in practice for many decades in other countries at different levels, from the local to the international cooperation. But there is still not a good solution. The cooperation, or rather relationship between fisheries and marine mammals has different aspects, but we can narrow them down to three aspects. First is the competition for biological resources between marine mammals and fisheries. Second is eating part of the harvest, which is the freeloading I mentioned, and bycatch and accidental deaths in the fishing tools. So the first one is the competition for the resources is very important because this is the reason for the other two, freeloading and mortality rates. Russian and non-Russian experts believe that the total consumption of water biological resources is many, many times more than for the inbound waters. This competition is weakened by the scale of the waters, spatial and temporal dynamics, and the fact that the resources of oceans and polar regions are still not completely discovered, so to say. They're not taken up by the anthropogenic factors, but the problem of the competition between people and marine mammals is very acute. And in this presentation, I would like to take a look at this problem of this relationship between marine mammals and fisheries in seas and inbound waters of the Russian Federation. We will start with the northern territories. Barents Sea, White Sea, Kara Sea have at least 22 species of marine mammals, including 7 pinnipeds and 15 cetaceans. Most of them are rare species. They are red listed in the Russian Red Book and IUCN. The seasonal ice defines variability of these species. Among 22 species, only 2 of them bearded seal and gray seal are met every year, but there's a difference. especially in the basin coast, and 6 of them are red listed in the Red Book. Among, or rather during the whole year, beluga whales, bearded ribbon seal, spotted seal, ringed seal go in these areas. Porpoise and minke whales can also come here during the waves. Most of the cetaceans go into high seas, so they are not that numerable and they are rare to see near the shores. Beluga whales, ringed seal, akiba, and bearded seals are fished, and that's why the polar region is defined for the recommended volumes of harvest, but the real harvest in Russia, we don't really have these figures. The Barents Sea is one of the oldest areas of Russian fishery. Currently, the Barents Sea has intensive industrial fishery, trawling of cod, of herring, and other fish. Coastline fishing of different species, such as crabs and other fishes, but the vast sea territory is closed by the natural reserves boundaries, as you can see on the left, on the map on the left. These are natural reserves, and one of the biggest ones is Franz Joseph Land, Russian Arctic on the Novaya Zemlya island, Kandalaksha Natural Reserve, and in blue you can see the areas with limited fishing and additional enforced rules. In purple, you can see near the White Sea is another restricted area for trawling. If we compare the seasonal maps for fisheries and for population position, we thought that they might match, but if we take a closer look, it turns out that they do not really match with the disposition and distribution of marine mammals. For example, cod is usually on the west and crabs are usually on the east. Crabs are caught with traps and marine mammals cannot be caught with these traps due to their size, and they can be caught only due to accidental strandings and entanglements in fishing gear. Currently, there are a number of measurements implemented to provide protection and conservation of marine mammals. They are referring to mostly beluga whales and other cetacean mammals, but there are other restrictions and trawling harvesting in the White Sea, as I have mentioned during the previous slide. NERO takes the necessary information on mortality rates in the northern seas. The main information is the examination, the studies, scientific studies, mass media information, and vessel information. According to this data, the mortality rate and harvest, or rather bycatch and mortality rate, are quite rare in these areas. You can see them on the table in the upper left part of the slide. Here, I would like to note the last point, the crab harvesting in the open seas. There was entanglement of one minke whale. The problem of freeloading of marine mammals exists, but it's not that problematic, it's not that acute. There are single cases of minke whales, fin whales, killer whales attacks on sea bottom fishing gears, but it's not that often. Only in coastline cod cultures, there are problems when akiba and bearded seals and other seals go there and take this food. But the main problem is the shipping and increased volume of shippings via the northern route. As you can see in the bottom left part, the increased volume of shipping. The central map demonstrates that these shippings go near or over the areas where marine mammals usually live and feed. It is obvious that shipping during breeding of Greenland seal can be very problematic, but we still have to analyze this problem completely. There could be additional measures for protection in the northern seas, maybe improved quality of trawling so that marine mammals could be released from them if they get there on accident, improving fishing gear, improving the fishing tools, development of acoustic systems to warn the marine mammals so that they will not be entangled there, and implementing seasonal limitations on shipping for breeding areas in the White Sea and in the Barents Sea. When we speak about the western part of fisheries, then we have the gray seal and Ladaga ringed seal. Both of them are red listed in the Russian Red Book. At the middle of the 20th century, people believed that these seals eat the most important fish, and they provide a lot of problems for fishery agencies. And as a result, during the Soviet time, these fisheries were ordered to kill the seals. And as a result, the population was losing about 1,000 heads per year. And in the 1970s, the importance of Ladaga bearded seal and ringed seal was understood. And then both species were red listed in the Russian Red Book. And only then major parts of Ladaga Lake were closed. Currently, mainly fish is caught in Ladaga Lake. The Finnish Gulf also provides harvest for fishing with trolling gear. The problem is it is also accompanied by marine mammals mortality. Gray seals can be caught in this fishing gear in the so-called push-up traps. This was one of the main reasons for seals to die in the Baltic. In the Ladaga Lake, 300 to 400 heads per year is the mortality rate when seals get entangled in the fishing gear, as you can see here in the center of the slide. Besides that, we can say that the total abundance decreased from 20,000 to 1930s to 5 and 3,000 in 2000, but the air survey conducted in 2020 demonstrated that the abundance restored to the level of 2000, so the decrease has stopped. The additional problem is anthropogenic activity near the lake. Tourism activity near the Ladaga Lake also disturbs ringed seal and spotted seals. There could be additional measures improving the fishing activity so that the marine mammals could go outside during the breeding period, improving fishing gear, improving and development of acoustic systems, working with the implementation of limitation for seasonal catch, and limiting flights of aircraft and helicopters at low altitudes near the Ladoga Lake. It is very important also to help rehabilitate wounded seals. When we speak about Azov and Black Sea region, we have bottlenose dolphins, we have black bull porpoise, and other species. The main harvest in this region, you can see here on the map. In the Azov Sea, Hamsa, in the Black Sea, and other fishes in Azov, and sharks. You can see with near the Kerch Strait, and to the west of the peninsula with the dark pink rather. Here I would like to mention one of the areas which is prohibited for harvesting in the Black Sea, which is, you can see here with the number 1, it's Anapa Bank. The current fishery rules in the Azov Sea envisions complete limitation, complete restriction on fishing. If dolphins are bycaught, they have to be released immediately in their natural habitat despite their state, and this must be noted in the logbook. The limitation on use of steel fishing gear, which is not harmful to dolphins, and only the southern part of the Kerch Strait allows catching sharks during the summertime, during the spring and summertime. Nevertheless, mortality rate of marine mammals in fishing gear in the Azov Sea and Black Sea still remains. And first and foremost, I would like to say that there is a poaching problem. If the official fishery is regulated and there are measures to decrease the bycatch and mortality rate, but this does not go to the poaching, to the poachers, so does not extend to the poachers. And we have this factual evidence. For example, on the 4th of May 2018, there was a Ukrainian vessel, MK0041, which did not have any documents, and 161 flounders, 3 catrans, and 46 bottlenose dolphins were found on the ship, all of them dead, and we were not able to save them. So within the monitoring of the harvesting by the scientific researchers on this area and different community organizations like Delpha and Karadak Scientific Station, as well as Venero. In 2017-2020, dolphin strandings on the Crimea and Caucasus were from 225 to 1,845 individuals. About 75% of them were bottlenose dolphins, 50% white-sided dolphins, and 10% bottlenose dolphins, and 75% were sea porpoises. Here we can see additional measures for protection. They are similar to other proposals. The Black Sea can also have an additional measure for having the video registration on the board of the vessel. And we believe that this problem could be successfully monitored and solved. Caspian Sea. The Caspian Sea, the main object besides the fish is the Caspian Sea. Seals breed in the northern part of the Caspian Sea during the winter time, as we can see here on the slide. During the spring, they go to different islands where they haul out. You can see them with blue dots, and then they spread along the whole area of the sea up to Iran, and during the autumn time they go back. As we can see on the map, there is a number of natural reserves near the Caspian Sea, including the important places for haulouts of Caspian seals. The main harvest is performed via the Dagestan coast for Kilka. And the main problem here with poaching sturgeons and fishing gear entanglement. Here we can see the number of individuals which were taken from the poachers from 2016 to 2020. There could be additional measures to protect and conserve Caspian seals. Besides these measures, I would like to mention the limitation of shipping during the winter time near the breeding sites at the northern part of the Caspian Sea. Now we go to the Baikal Lake. We had the Caspian seal, and in the Baikal we have Baikal seal and Baikal Omul or Baikal Cisco. There are different protected areas, as you can see here on the right. This is a landlocked water area, and its biological resources are limited. And the latest results show that ringed seal and Baikal seal are competitors for their food objects. Basically, they have very similar food objects. Their diet is very similar. Japanese specialists published their works in 2020, which demonstrate that Baikal seal, despite this is a highest trophic level consumer, during the summertime usually feeds on plankton, Macrocryptopus. And the work demonstrated satellite images, the depth and orientation and bearing of the animals underwater, which is a beautiful work. Other fish and animals are not usually the food objects of both species, but they are part of their diet during the breeding period. Ring, or rather Baikal seal, is not harvested at the Baikal seal, but there is a freeloading problem when the seals are near the coast. there could be up to 100% of loss of their food objects. We can also have additional limitation on fishing gear, additional acoustic equipment installed, limitation of movement on the ice, limitation of the low altitude helicopters and aircraft, and also important to have rehabilitation for seals. And finally, the Far East fishing water area. It has more than 31 species, 11 pinnipeds, 19 cetaceans, and 1 sea otter. Most of them are red listed in the Red Book. The fisheries harvested for 11 species. This water area is the main part where the Russian Federation takes its water resources and fishing resources from, for herring, for cod, for squids, for flounders, and so on. We use different measurements and different tools, trawling and diving equipment, some traps, and some of these fishing equipment is very dangerous, and marine mammals can be entangled, captured and entangled there. This area has a developed system of natural reserves, as you can see them in blue on the map, and there are limitations on the fishing. You can see them in pink. This system is quite effective, and it protects the key areas for marine mammals of the Far East of the Russian Federation. Besides that, during the last few years, our Far East branches develop a systematic approach to study mortality rate and bycatch rate at the fishing areas. There is a certain procedure. All the officials have to follow these procedures, and that's why we have a certain database on the bycatch cases. And as you can see, during the recent years, mostly it's trawl catch, the mortality rate is very low. It's not an accident. I believe that the mortality rate has significantly dropped during the last few years, and we can see the reason for that. Since 2015, we have prohibited by the governmental decree drift nets, and this was the main source of mortality rate. Up to 20,000 marine mammals, according to different assessments. This was the number of marine mammals which died in drifting nets. There is no effective replacement for drifting nets, but still the government decided to do so. And I would like to mention that the United States still continue to use drifting nets, and the problem still persists. When I speak about freeloading, then it's mostly regarding killer whales and halibuts. When killer whales damage these areas and damage the nets, fisheries note about 100% loss of harvest. And this is a problem, this is a problematic solution. Well, the possible solution rather for the Far East are as follows. They are similar to the other water regions. And to conclude, I would like to say that we must say that the current harvesting rules include all the necessary decrees of the USSR from 1986 rather, but only in terms of regulating the harvesting. But the conservation and protection of marine mammals had certain limitations on the activity which did not include harvesting. For example, shipping, tourism, aviation, fueling, different military activities. Then these activities cannot be regulated by fishery agency because they're not part of it. Because of that, we believe that a new legal act should be put in motion, which is similar to the USSR one. In addition to the norms and regulations which we already have, this kind of act could be prepared with the Ministry of the Natural Resources, of the Ministry of Agriculture and other ministries. Thank you for your attention, and I'm ready to take your questions. Thank you for a very interesting presentation. I believe that we have a lot of questions and everybody is really interested in this topic, but we are running out of time, and that's why I believe that we can take a few minutes from the short break and answer some answers. And I would like to ask the technical support to read the questions. First question from Olga Filatova. We have heard that the bycatch of marine mammals is underestimated. We do not have enough specialists and fishers do not register the bycatch. What does NIRO has to do to bring the figures to the real ones? Answer: NIRO understands the situation and tries to solve it. The problem which we have just voted, it's not just a Russian one, it's an international problem. Many countries try to solve this problem and they are not very successful. Of course, fishers are not very interested in saying exactly what and how many they caught, but this is the task of science to find the real figures. As NIRO, we see the solution in developing a system of scientific survey and extending the scope of the areas to study for different areas during different seasons, having the comprehensive procedure to collect data, to store this data in the database. And we believe this will be the way to assess the scale and volume of the harvest, its specificity in terms of time and place. And we are not inventing something new. Other countries also follow this path. Question. First one from Olga Shpak. She says it's a very interesting presentation. Ladaga seal was 5,000 in 2000. In 2020, you said that it stabilized, but what was the threshold? 3,000 or 5,000? And the next question is similar regarding Ladaga seal. The question is, has the work of NIRO shown the decrease or increase of the number of Ladaga seals since 2000? Answer: I am grateful to both colleagues. I also used one of my colleagues' work when preparing for this presentation. The results of the survey in 2020 are still being processed right now, and the processing is still going on, but the number should be about 4,500. I cannot be more accurate right now because we still counting the numbers. We worked together with the St. Petersburg branch and with a number of natural resources in the Ladaga Sea, or in the Ladaga Lake rather. Besides that, we want to have additional data from parallel surveys at the other territories, adjacent territories. Thank you. Next question from Olga Spak. Regarding slide number 12 on Azov, Black Sea, is there some kind of statistics? What kind of fishing gear is the most problematic for dolphins, specifically for bottlenose dolphin? Answer, yes. Bottlenose dolphin is usually entangled in gill nets and fishing gear for big mammals, specifically for skids and shark rays. The application and use of these gill nets is limited in time and space. But as I said, we have problems with illegal fishing or poaching. Next question from Vladimir Gromov. Vyacheslav, thank you for a very interesting presentation. Do you plan to regulate shipping on in the Finnish Gulf? There will be new port cities. Will they negatively impact the marine mammal ecosystem? Answer, well, I am a biologist. I am not an official who would regulate the shipping activity. As a representative of a fishing institute, what I can say is that our task is to monitor the data, to collect the data, which demonstrates potential risks of shipping, of increased shipping, and then providing recommendations on limiting these shippings or alleviating or decreasing the shippings or maybe spreading them in time, in space. The situation in the Finnish Gulf is well known and we work on it. Thank you. The next question from Vladimir Burkanov. You demonstrated the number of extracted seals in the Caspian Sea, but do you have the general number? Answer, yes. VNIRO and the Caspian branch are this kind of work to collect the data, to have the figures via the scientific service systems from the local fishing authorities. And I must say that other sites, well, you know, the Black Sea, the main factor is these large-scale gill nets. The same type of nets are used in the Caspian Sea for other types of fish, for sturgeons, and this is the main reason for seals entanglement. But this is also illegal. Only some individuals are allowed to be caught. The scale is absolutely different. There is no need to use these kind of nets, which are dangerous for marine mammals. So that's the point. Only poachers use these kind of nets. That's why we use scientific surveys, and they show that mortality rate of marine mammals on illegal harvesting sites are very high. Vyacheslav, I would like to ask a question because we have to have a short break. Sergei Kornev, I believe he is your colleague, and Sergei Ryazanov have a question regarding sea otter on the Kurili Island. Drifting nets were revoked, but there is still a catch in the coastline, and as a result, there is a drastic decrease in the abundance of sea otter. Does VNIRO plan to have a study in this coastline in the Kuril Islands? And how does this new system affect sea otter abundance and population? Answer, I think this is a question to the Kamchatka branch of the VNIRO. And sea otter halals are within their responsibility, and we believe that they will have a scientific proposal on improving the management measures and how to work with this specific species. Okay, let's postpone the discussion, and I will ask you the final question. Olga Muhametova asks, the killer whale mortality rate was not more than 25%, but you say that it was up to 100%. Answer, well, I think there's some kind of misunderstanding. I said that Olga Bilanovich data and Kamchatka branch data and other forest branches of the VNIRO show that during the last years about 20%, and you say 25%, are attacked by killer whales. But where they are attacked, where killer whales appear, from 80 to 100% of harvest is lost, but only for halibut. When there is a halibut and cod or other types of fish, killer whale doesn't take it. They really like halibuts. Okay, thank you.